Hey Jews, have you ever watched any documentaries about cults? And about how, like, a lot of these cults, they start off, they sound like a really good idea, and they sound normal. Some of them, okay, or to some people, they seem like that. And then people get into them, and then slowly, like, some of them kind of wonder if things are okay. And after, when they get out, they think like, yeah, I thought back upon that, and I thought like, wait, is this normal? Or whatever happened, but either they decided to continue and rationalize it, like, because they've come that far, and maybe people in their families had said like, hey, you're in a cult, and they were like, no, you're crazy, I'm not in a cult, I know what I'm doing. They cut off their family, and then later on they realized like, oh yeah, I can see I was in a cult. Like, okay, so I've seen some of those documentaries. So what would you say if I told you that in the Torah, it's like, especially in the prophets, okay, and especially in prophets like Isaiah, and this is Ketuvim, this is prophets that we had, and I want to explain a few things. Please hear me out, because what I'm trying to say is, what if I told you that the Torah basically says that at the end of time, we are going to be like we're in a cult. They call it hostages, okay, so it's like, if this is the timeline, I'm trying to write more clearer. So if this is our timeline, okay, and we are here, we're more towards the end. We are here, we're in 5,784, okay, and we're basically only going to 6,000. So we're at the end of times. Okay, and there's all sorts of prophecies and all sorts of things that we learn from all of the smart people that came before us in generations past, who have explained to us the wisdom of the Torah, okay, including in the Kuzari. I'm sorry, I don't have the book with me right now, but I'll put all the books in my description, and I urge you, all I want to do is tell you, please learn. Please wake up for yourself and learn, okay, because what they're saying for us is that it's like at the end of time, which is now, it will be like the Jews are in a cult, and we have to wake them up. And so some people wake up, okay, and they say, whoa, you guys are still in a cult. And somebody needs to tell you that. So at any point, you will evaluate for yourself. I'm not telling you, come join my cult. Come join my cult of the Jews, of the observant Jews. I'm not telling you, come join. I'm not recruiting you like some people are trying kind of to do into their cult. Okay, they're going out to look for you. They're going out to invite you in. They're going out to tell you what to read. Tell you exclusively read our books. Look like us. Do our things, which are different than the ways that we have learned from our history. Okay, so I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, hey, you guys, there's some things that I've now learned, okay, having been in my entire life, mostly in the 70 nation ideology, and also some spiritual practices of the East. Okay, so I'm just gonna put also spiritual practice. Okay, and we know where all this comes from. So, but before I didn't know. So this is where I grew up. This was my ideology. But at a certain point, I came to start learning the Torah, and learning Jewish ideology. So, in a way, and I had help. And also started listening to rabbis and started listening to the Torah. But before, I wasn't willing to do that. And so what I'm trying to do is say, I'm not trying to recruit you to my cult. It's not a cult. I'm trying to say reality may not be what you think it is at this point because of your ideology, which is not Judaism. It's the opposite of Judaism at its most extreme, which is evil. So at its most extreme, this ideology pulls to evil, pulls to slavery. Okay, pulls to having a few people in with all the resources doling it out as they see fit because they are their own gods. Okay? And literally, the oaths that they take, okay, are literally opposed to everything that's in the Torah, that everything that God says is good and holy and peaceful. So it's the exact opposite. And so if you're not careful, you will be distracted to think that this is good and this is evil. Okay? That's what this cult is, and it's more than a cult. It's actively working on your mind to program you into their matrix. This is what the matrix is. Okay? And the only way to remain outside of this matrix is to condition your mind based on objective reality. Let's just say that if you could tune your brainwaves into the absolute positive good and the absolute 100% holy of God and know that there is a God, you could tune your brain into this frequency, the frequency of the Torah. Okay? Or you're going to be programmed into this frequency. And if you're, depending on what level of programming you are, you're either seeing evil as good or you're wondering what's going on. What's going on? Why does everyone hate the Jews now? Why does everyone basically hate the observant Jews, including Jews? And that's been for a long time. Because good is evil and evil is good to a certain degree of what you think. So if we came into the land of Israel, okay, let's look back, okay? Because I'm saying that Isaiah is saying that we are like prisoners. We are like hostages in the end of time, that we're like hostages to the 70 nations. Okay, and in our exile, because they knew we were going to go into exile. And over time, because we've been out here amongst them, and we were told and commanded not to mix with them. But it happened, that happened several times over history. And so what happens is that we're like hostages, and Isaiah tells us that we are like hostages who have Stockholm syndrome. Okay, to greater or lesser extent. So, and also, not only that, but that no one has sympathy for us. And over, things happen to us. I have a short video, I think it's called, Everything Has a Purpose. Everything has a purpose and everything is connected. Yes. And that is something that I learned from Rabbi Avigdor Miller, who said your history, and especially the history of the nation of Israel, is not random. It is purposeful and it is connected, meaning we should be able to look back at our history and understand that it's connected. It's going somewhere, okay? Because we know that it's going towards the redemption. It has directionality. It's going towards an end date, so therefore there are the end of times, and we're told basically what's going to happen there. There's prophecies for the end of time, and one of them says, "Awake, awake, dawn your glory, Israel." I mean, now's not the time to completely lose it in terms of the knowledge that's been passed throughout the generations for the end generation, which is us. We're the end generation. And at the end of time, we're told that the truth is nehederet. It's very hard to find. Okay, so what I was saying about the Kuzari, there it's Rabbi Yehuda Levi in defense of the despised faith, which is Judaism. Because it is the objective truth, and the only people who have that objective truth are the Jews. And if you open the Kuzari, and again I'm going to put it in my description, he says, the Akdama, the intro to the book, says that Rabbi Yehuda Levi was such a proud Jew that he didn't back down from saying the elitism of the Torah and above the Jewish people. Like, this is, if you look at objective reality. Okay, let's look at subjective reality right now. Who's the most despised people? The observant Jews. Okay, but in objective reality, the most cherished people in God's eyes are the observant Jews because they follow his Torah. The observant Jews, for also on a continuum, okay, are mostly awake to this reality, and because we have the anchor of the Torah. Okay, and any Jew can just start learning the Torah, and anyone can learn the Torah. But look, the difference, says Rabbi Yehuda Levi, really, is that in the 70 nations, okay, if you're seeking some sort of truth, you will use logic and your intellect, or like philosophies and all that stuff, okay? So you'll use that and you'll get to a certain point, and you may get to a point that there is something that is an intelligence in our creation. There is an intelligence, okay? But what that is exactly, you do not know. You can't know for sure, okay? But in the Torah, there is a wisdom, okay? So with the Jewish nation, we have a wisdom, which is different than an intellect, okay? An intellect, it's like, to the degree, I guess, that you have an ego, you can understand kind of what your reality. However, we're told that God looked into the Torah and created our reality. And I'm not going to go into this right now, but it's 5-dimensional, 3 physical, 1 spiritual, and 1 is time. I have pretty much all my videos, I try to explain this, okay? So if God looked into the Torah to create our reality, and we have very smart people throughout our history explaining how to look at reality with the Torah perspective, and we learn that we should be able to understand our reality, understand what's happening, and know where we are in our timeline, okay, and what's going on. And that's a proper way to see reality. So, and then is also, because it depends on all of us, the nation of Israel, waking up to get our redemption. So we need to tell other people, other Jews, that you need to start learning for yourself. You need to go back and look at what does being Jewish mean. Okay? And you need to look back farther than a few generations, because first of all, okay, so let me explain, and then I'm going to explain what I mean by, like, looking back farther than a few generations, okay? Because look, the Jewish nation originated because of Avraham and Sarah. Okay, because Avraham went out to look for God. He was also raised in an ideology of idolaters where they didn't believe in God. There was no one God, or creator, all powerful. They either worship different energies that God created that have power to them. And again, the Kuzari explains a lot of this, okay? That I'm not a rabbi, and I don't really know how maybe to explain a lot of these concepts that I'm trying to explain, but there are thousands of books and rabbis that do explain that. That's where I'm learning from, okay? So what I'm trying to say, though, is that Avraham woke up and he searched for God, and eventually he found him, just like God tells us in Dvarim, in Deuteronomy, that from there you will search for me, from over here, from wherever you grew up, and you search for him, you will find him. And also in Tehillim, in Psalms, it says that all those who search for him will find him. And he will save all who search in Messianic times, coming up, even before it, any time. So in Volume he says that from there, so after the long exile, you will have strayed and will have gone far from Hashem and from his word and from the Torah, like we have. and no matter what, we can call out to him and we will find him. If you search for him honestly with all your heart and all your soul, you will find God. But the fact is that you're not searching, because either you think you found something that's comfortable with your ego. You haven't given it a wholehearted search. I'm sorry to say that, but I know that it's not true, because if it were true, you would have found him, because he said that from there you will search for him and you will find him if you search for him with all your heart and all your soul. So if you haven't found him, it means that you haven't searched. And so they say in the Torah and in our whole lineage, just go back and learn Torah. Just do the things he says to do, and he will help you. That's what I did, okay? That's why you have to actually do the things that are in the Torah. It's not enough to learn them, because again, this is intellect and this is wisdom. What does that mean? It means that our traditions and our information came from prophets. We had prophets. And we didn't have one or two prophets. We had thousands and thousands of prophets. So, and they all corroborate one another. And they're all like, and then we have very smart people who have written about it and who have testified to it and who have searched for God and found him, and now are telling us how to search and find him. There are teachers. Those are the rabbis. Those are Rabbi Avigdor Miller. That is the collection of rabbis, amazing rabbis that contributed to the Torah Anthology, Mesillas, started by Rabbi Yaakov Kuli, who was a genius. These are smart people, and let's look at it this way, okay? If you are a tree, okay, like Avraham, let's say, is a tree. I'm just describing. This is me describing it this way, okay? This is just me trying to tell you what I'm understanding and trying to explain it in my own way. If Avraham was a tree, okay, and all the generations before us or whatever, okay, so it went Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, okay, so Avraham and God talked. They were prophets. God walked with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And in the world, God was known as the God of Avraham, as the God of Yitzchak, as the God of Yaakov, as the God of Israel, who was Yaakov. And from them, our forefathers, came the 12 tribes. One standout tribe is Levi, because the tribe of Levi never strayed from these ways, okay? So we have reliable information, okay? From Levi came Moses. Levi was not a slave in Egypt, so he was never enslaved in this ideology, meaning his wisdom and knowledge is untainted, reliable, not messed with, not mixed with any kind of something else. No other different things special just for them, okay? No relaxing in the modesty department there. No different kashrut. No different mystical books. No different attitudes towards sexual relations. No nonsense about how there's no hell and how we're not supposed to think about Olam Haba. No. Just completely exactly what all the rabbis agree on, and what every real Torah observant, God-fearing individual goes by, which is the Shulchan Aruch, not some new Shulchan Aruch. Okay. So anyway, so they were never enslaved, and from that tribe came Moses, and Moses gave us the Torah. We were all there. That's where we became the nation of Israel. This is why the nation of Israel is different. No other nation ever had a revelation of God. No other nation says it. No other nation claims it. No other nation denies that this happened. Okay, other spiritual ideologies, okay? So at that point, a whole nation, millions of people, had a revelation of God. they became prophets. Now, and from them, they told their offspring. Okay, so again, those people that really lived, that really were in our history, told their sons and their grandsons and so forth. And after that, every generation did the exact same thing. So when they were closer and held more to those traditions, it was like they were the tree and the apples, let's just say, okay? But then you know that saying where the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Okay, so maybe this generation did a little bit less, went a little bit farther away, and we're exiled now. We're all mixed in here now. And so maybe we are far away from the tree. And maybe some of us have become bad apples. And maybe some of us are rotten apples. And you know what happens if you don't separate your apples? You know what happens is that it's not that these apples get better, it's that these apples become rotten faster. Right? So some of us may have been bad apples, or to some degree, okay? It also says that all those, so it's like, again, that there's a chain. There's a chain here connecting you, and every apple that's like these apples are connected on a chain, and they're just swinging in the wind a little bit, but they're connected to the tree. But the apples who are not connected to the chain have now fallen off, and they're not connected to the tree at all. So what I'm trying to say there is that if we've become bad apples and fallen far from our tree, then now our minds are becoming a little bit rotten, okay? Now we're starting to see bad things and saying that they're good, okay? Like saying abortion is good, murdering an unborn baby, when we're commanded to reproduce, and we believe in God, and that's a blessing. So now we're saying evil things are good and good things are bad, okay? So God looked into the Torah and created our reality. So we should be able to look into our reality with Torah wisdom. Because wisdom's not like we didn't achieve this in understanding by ourselves. Okay, and part of it is a gift. This is a privilege. But again, good is evil and evil is good. So instead of looking at learning and practicing Judaism as a privilege, learning the Torah, learning how to understand that there's things you need to sacrifice in your life, meaning your sometimes your comfort, your obsession for the fashion of the day, or your I don't know, you're not spending all your time running around trying to make money for the money's sake, to have more things, to have a bigger house, to have whatever. No, you're putting the emphasis more on learning Torah. Less on the material, more on the spiritual. Okay, less on the physical aspect of our reality and more on the spiritual. And we're told by King Solomon in Kohelet that basically the whole point of your life is to acquire a fear of God. If you haven't at least acquired a fear of God, meaning you're worried what God thinks about you, you're worried about that, like, am I doing the right thing? Is it okay that I'm not keeping Shabbat, even though I know that Jews are supposed to keep Shabbat, and I know I'm a Jew. Maybe my grandparents used to keep Shabbat, or my great-grandparents probably did. But we're Jews that don't keep the Torah, and that's okay. That's not, you've fallen away from the tree, and you may be in a cult. And you need to free your mind. No one can free your mind, just like Bob Marley said. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. No one but you can free your mind, if I'm quoting him correctly. Only you can free yourself, and you can do it with God's help. You can get redemption, and that's why you should be thinking about Pesach, Passover, coming up. You should be getting ready. That's a part in our reality, that one of the time elements in our reality where we can get ourselves out of the matrix, okay, with some big help from God, and especially on Passover. That's the original redemption. Okay, and that was what the information that was passed down from father to son, father to son, father to son, how God took them out of, he just took them out. They were here, they were all mixed in. Some of them were rotten apples, and they didn't come out of Egypt. They were too rotten. There was nothing there to bring back. It was all moldy and already decomposed. Don't be a rotten apple. If you are a bad apple, change now. What's the cure for bad apples? How do you cure bad apples? You learn the Torah, okay? And you trust the people who came before you, because it's an unbroken chain, and it wasn't arrived at via intellect. It was arrived at via prophecy and wisdom that was passed down, okay? And that is a reliable chain, because it was an unbroken chain. They were attached always to the tree. And now, where are we? Please take a look at your life. How far away are you from looking and acting like observant Jews? And remember, there too, there is a continuum. There are apples that are coming loose. There are apples that are attached to this chain that we talked about. Okay, even here, because the pull of it, this has a magnetic frequency to it that's attractive. It's nice to think that you only live once. It's nice to think that, because that gives you a lot of freedom to just do whatever you want. Try whatever you want, do whatever you want. Whatever, man. You're just gonna die. And we're like, yeah, we are gonna die. We know we're gonna die, says Rav Kuli of the Mesillas Anthology, Torah Anthology, the genius that I spoke of earlier. He says that it's a certainty that you're going to die. That's a one thing that we can all agree on. That's 100% certain, is that you are going to die. Therefore, wouldn't it make some sense to not be completely distracted by things that literally don't matter, like movies, which just program you more into the matrix, with frivolities and vanities, says King Solomon, vanity of vanities, just everything under the sun, everything that's all physical is just a vanity of vanities. So you can just distract yourself with that, or you can realize that the time element of your reality is ticking, 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 ticking. And 100% certainty, the time is going towards you dying. So you need to understand and acquire some understanding of this one element, the spiritual element of our reality. And there is a reliable chain of information that's been passed down from father to son over the course of time. And we're even told in there, why would they tell us that we're like hostages who have Stockholm syndrome? Because they could see it in their generation also. That's why Rav Kuli did this, because he saw that in his generation 300 years ago, Jews, were forgetting Hebrew. And because they were forgetting Hebrew, weren't learning Hebrew, then the Torah wasn't accessible to them. It didn't make any sense. And everything was spread out, the Mishnah and all the Gemara and whatever. And it was, who's going to go and learn that? Right? Just like we're also trying to make a living, and we're also trying to figure out our life, and we have illnesses, and we have, where it seems like our governments are trying to kill us, and there is actually Agenda 2030 and all these protests, and not to forget antisemitism. So who's really got time to contemplate our very existence and the fact that it's 100% certain that we're going to die? Like, we don't have time for that. Okay, so comes Rav Kuli and he says, look, I'll make it easy for you. I want to help you, because we're definitely going to get brainwashed. Okay, and at the end of time, things are going to go down. And they're going to say, wake up, read these prophecies, because it's the end of time. Look and see that what happened in Kibbutz Be'eri was Hosea 14. It really seems like it, okay? Because it's Hosea ben Be'eri. You think that's just a coincidence? I mean, I don't think so, because it actually happens to be that in Hosea 14, it sounds exactly what happened in Kibbutz Be'eri. It says there that the people will realize that the military is not coming to help them. The IDF was nowhere to be found on October 7th in Kibbutz Be'eri, okay? And then it goes on to say that babies will be ripped from their pregnant mothers' stomachs. And that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, as hard as it may seem to believe in God and that the Torah has anything to do with you, it does. You need to go look at it, please. Please, and here's some help. Everything in my description. I have another class called Cognitive Dissonance. I have another class called Essential Reading List for all Jews. You're a smart Jew because you come from Avraham, who was a genius. Okay, and we can see in our lineages, just like I just said, that Rav Yaakov Kuli is a genius. I mean, go back and read. Go learn from these trustworthy people that are in your lineage who are telling you, don't mix in here. You're going to lose your way. You're going to misinterpret reality. The only way you can really understand reality is by tuning your brain into this frequency of the Torah, which is the objective truth. Okay, so for example, this is where we come from. Then we became the nation of Israel when we got the Torah, and when we became a nation, his nation, God's nation, the nation of Israel, the God of Israel. Okay, if this isn't the situation, then there's no need for a nation of Israel. That's not me saying that. That's basically what the Torah tells us. That because there's blessings and curses, if you don't keep this information, then bad things are going to happen to you. And they have to, because you have to wake up. And the only way to wake you up, depending on how tuned in you are here, you're going to have to get a big smack. A big smack. And on October 7th, okay, because first of all, it says that God leads us in this world as Jews because of Avraham, because we're the descendants of Avraham, who he loved and who he promised that he would redeem us. Okay? He leads us either with a rod or with a staff. Shiftacha mishantecha yenachamuni will comfort me. Even the rod will comfort you. Why? Because if you wake up from the rod, meaning you got a smack with a rod, a smack. When you wake up, you will say, whoa, thank you, Hashem. Thank you, God, for waking me up. It was scary, but it made me wake up, snap out of this reality, which is not reality, and understand that there is a God, okay? And a lot of people on October 7th did that. They did tshuva. They repented after October 7th because they were either shown or they were so scared and they had still some connection to the tree of their lineage, and they woke up and they came back and they started learning Torah. They started keeping Shabbat. They started practicing Judaism. They've come back. And there's another way that God leads us, and that's sweetly with his staff, like the staff of a shepherd, right? Just sweetly, like, oh, you're a cute little lamb going over here. Bloop, come on back. Just gently around, whatever, I guess, the neck, I don't know, or the shoulder, and just lead them. We're just redirecting you a little bit over here. You're looking over here. No, look over here. Focus. Okay, that's what sweetly is. It's not like your life is perfect, but every little thing that goes wrong is an opportunity to understand that maybe you are lacking somewhere. That's why in also the Mesillas Yesharim, which is the Ramchal, and I'm reading, and I'll put it in my description, the Mesillas Yesharim with Rabbi Avigdor Miller's commentary. And again, this is in my video called Essential Reading for All Jews. Okay, so Rabbi Avigdor Miller is amazing and very relatable. He died only in 2001, and he was from America. So his English is, he's like a modern day guy telling us who is still of the old school, okay? And I think that it's an important rabbi to listen to. And I'm also going to put my description on website where you can sign up for his weekly emails or daily emails, and you'll learn everything because he had real wisdom. Okay, I'm just going to try not to make this too long, but basically when we became the nation of Israel, and we were brought into the land of Israel, okay, and we had the kingdom of David, and we had the temple, and we had a connection with God. And in our world, there was peace, there was health, there was prosperity, there was abundance, and there was knowledge, and there was wisdom. We had King Solomon, okay? And that's the way, the proper way that the world should be. But the world is now opposite. Can you see that? Can you see what Agenda 2020 is? It's slavery. They say, the WEF, they say that you will own nothing and you will be happy. And they're telling you you're going to be happy, okay? It's not going to be like, and we hope you're happy. It's just you're going to be happy because evil will be good and good will be evil. So bad will be good and good will be bad, meaning you're going to own nothing, and that's going to be a good thing, so you will be happy. Do you understand? But that's not the way it should be. Okay, that was also Tower of Babel situation, which was, again, in Abraham's time. It was Tower of Babel. And again, says King Solomon, nothing is new under the sun. Nothing in your physical reality is new. It's just old. It just comes back around and around in the time cycle, which means nothing here. But here it does. Remember we said we're going towards something, the redemption. But we have to get you to wake up. Because if you are a rotten apple, or if you're a bad apple, you're not coming out of Mitzrayim. Like they didn't come out of Egypt, you're not going to come out of Matrix. Maybe let's just say Matrix, you know what I mean? You're not going to come out. So you have to get yourself at least connected. Okay? And Passover is the time to do that. It's a great time. Anytime's a great time. All you have to do is repent. All you have to do is search for God with all your heart and all your soul. And what God tells us also through the prophets, especially in Isaiah, where you can go and read 48 to like 53, but in Isaiah 52, that's where he says, wake up, Israel. Come back, start keeping Shabbat. Start doing some of these things, because somewhere along that chain of that tree, in your history, either your parents or your grandparents or your great-grandparents broke the chain. And if you're not connected, okay, this tree is getting saved. Okay, this tree is getting redeemed at the end of time, whenever that is coming up. I mean, between now and 6,000. Okay, but it could be now. Wouldn't it be nice to be redeemed now? What does that even mean? Okay, so when we came into the land of Israel in 1948, we were like, we don't need you, because that's what the Zionists think. Okay, so don't be going and identifying evil as good and good as evil. The Zionists think that we don't need God. We don't want God. We don't want the Torah. They have openly and everything they've done since their existence has been anti-Torah. The land of Israel right now, Israelis since 1948 is not a Torah observant country. It's not the nation of Israel with the Torah laws in the land of Israel. Because if that happened, we would have the kingdom of David. And then we would have the temple. And then we would be fully redeemed. This is the end of the story. And it's a good story. And it's a good story for everyone. Why? Because it turns everything back right side up. To where good is good. And where holy is holy. And peaceful is good. And, and you're not stressed out all the time. And you don't have to be scared of eating your food because it's poison. And they're not poisoning our air, the very air we breathe. And our water, the very water we drink and we must have in order to survive, which they charge us for, and they fluorinate. So, again, Passover is a time to get your redemption. Now, very important on Passover is to get rid of all of the chametz, the flour, the yeast, everything not connected to Passover, which is matzah, whatever, kosher. Go kosher. And by the way, you should be eating kosher. That's another thing that's making you programmable, because it's not pure, and only pure things can be holy. And we're supposed to be a holy nation, the holy nation of Israel. And how do we get holy? We do the mitzvot. And then we even say things like, Aksher Kidashta, that you commanded us in order to make us holy, basically. And we have to be holy. So if you're not eating kosher, there's no way you're connected right now. Get connected, and get connected ASAP. Okay, so again, I mean, there's no point to, so sorry, if you're on the tree, let's just use that again, okay? So if you've been on the tree the whole time, meaning none of your sons and daughters have ever fallen off, let's just say, okay? So let's say you're observant Jew, like no one has ever left that chain, and you're doing a great job. Thank you. So you're looking at reality, and you're seeing the other, okay, you're seeing the other apples fall off, and you're seeing some of these apples over here, although a lot of times the people in the tree, the apples in the tree are just doing their own thing. They're just busy over here, so they don't even really know what's going on over here. So comes something evil like COVID, okay? And they rely on people who know what's happening over here to tell them, so that they can tell you like, oh no, that means this, or oh no, well, what you got to do in that situation is this. Just rely on God or whatever. Okay, so just understand that there's a lot of moving parts here. But one thing is for sure, if you are not controlling what you are thinking, basically, when you look back and look at all the major decisions in your life or whatever, I mean, there's got to be a spot where you say, well, I didn't really make that decision. I just I didn't decide that we're not going to keep Shabbat. We never did. Or, and that was normal. And it was normal to do things on Shabbat, like drive and all that stuff. Like that's just what we know. And that's what everyone does. And it's okay. But you didn't yourself consider, now, maybe it not be okay. Maybe it's not. Maybe there was a reason that we're told not to do that. And maybe there's a reason why other people who used to do that don't do that anymore. And now they're observant Jews, like myself. Like there's a reason. It's not that I don't like to, I wouldn't like to go water skiing or scuba diving. I used to do that. Let's go here and there and everywhere to go. It's not that I don't want to, sit on a beach somewhere, but that's not productive, because at the end of the day, when I'm going to die, however I'm going to die, the only thing that I'm going to take with me, because I know that it's 100% certain that I'm going to die. And it's just with God's mercy how that happens. Okay. And however it happens, I have to know that at least, I think that at least according to the Torah and what every smart person before me has told me, is that I'm going to carry with me the spiritual information that I have obtained in this world, in this spiritual in this reality. Okay. So while I was alive, my 5-dimensional reality, which is 3 physical, 1 spiritual, and 1 is time. So the only thing that I'm going to take with me after this time runs out and my body is dead, because everything under the sun is finite, because it's hooked to time. But everything over the sun is spiritual, which is your soul. So I know I have a soul. It's called neshama. I know a little bit about it. I know what good things are good for my soul, and what things will put a stain on my soul. And I know that the cleaner that my soul is, the closer I'll be to God in the spiritual world, which is called Olam Haba. Okay, so I know that at least I've tried to get close to God. I've tried to get attached to this tree. And so when the redemption happens, whenever things go down and we know what's more or less going to happen, and it's going to be scary because it's meant to wake you up. and repent and come home from God to God. And that's what they did in Egypt. And they all cried out to God and he saved them. And same thing in Purim, which we just had, which happened in the middle of our story, around 3,400, I believe, something like that. It happened here in the middle of our story, which was made to remind the nation as a whole of our covenant with God. And they all cried out. They fasted for 3 days. They all cried out to God and they got redeemed. I think it happened in the middle of our story because we're also told that at the beginning of our story, when we became the nation of Israel, we accepted the Torah out of fear. Because God held the mountain over top of us and threatened to drop it. Because if there is no nation of Israel in the world, in our reality, then there is no one keeping objective reality. Therefore, there is no one to say what is evil and what is good. It's just whatever we think. But if there is objective reality and there is the custodians of that, the people who were tasked with maintaining and keeping that truth in our reality, it just happens to be us. Baruch Hashem, thank God. It's a blessing and a privilege. And it's because of Abraham. Okay, it's not for no reason. There has to be a nation of Israel at the beginning of time through Adam. Okay, in the beginning of time through Adam, this is the whole point of understanding and of having this in the Torah. It's not just a story for no reason. The nations of the world, everybody was supposed to be Israel, basically fulfilled this role of Israel. Okay, and Adam could have, I guess, I don't know, anyone, let's say, whatever. It's hard to explain. You have to learn it yourself, okay? Or learn it from a rabbi. Again, I'm not a rabbi. But what happened was Abraham obtained that blessing, obtained that status, obtained that privilege because he searched for God and he found him. And so through Abraham's seed, through Yitzchak and Yaakov. And there's reasons why Abraham had other sons. He had Ishmael. And he had the sons of Keturah, which are the Eastern spirituality and stuff. And there was reasons for that. And Yitzchak also. Yitzchak had Esav, who is Rome, who is the Vatican. That is Christianity. Okay, and then he had Yaakov, who was perfect, basically. He was Ish Shalem. Shalom, peaceful, perfect. Shalem is perfect. Okay, and he obtained the actual spiritual designation of Israel. And he had 12 tribes. And we are all descendants, if you were a Jew. Or you were somebody somewhere along your line, somebody from the other nations, saw the truth and converted. And is today an observant Jew. Or in their day they were. And then whatever happened to their offspring, it's the same apple and tree situation, okay? So that's the situation. So Passover, you got to get rid of your chametz, which is your flour and your yeast and everything like that. That's not kosher for Passover. And there's probably lots of information on YouTube. You could look that up, ask your rabbis, your Orthodox rabbis, and you got to get it out of your house because that represents the ego. Okay? Now, in Passover, you learn when you do the Seder, okay, the Seder, when you do the meal for Passover in the Haggadah, and you read that at that time, the Israelites, okay, before they became the nation of Israel, the Israelites in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, they had to sacrifice a sheep, whatever, a ram or whatever. Aries, it was the god, basically, in lowercase letters of the Egyptians. So they had to roast it in front of them. They had to basically sacrifice their god in front of them. That took a lot of courage. So, but in today's world, I think you have to sacrifice your ego. And so one of the ways that you do that is just doing whatever the Torah tells you to do. Don't think you know how to see reality. Don't think you understand what's going on. You may be in a cult, okay? Don't believe me. Go and look for yourself. Go and investigate yourself. And on Passover, one of the things you can do to speed up that process of understanding is to purify yourself. So you're going to do Passover as best you can. And definitely get rid of all the chametz, all the flour and yeast. It represents your ego. So that's one powerful way to sacrifice your ego.